All right. So welcome everybody. Claire Wasserman here, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. If you couldn't tell, I have a book. The joke is you should buy it so we get it out of our house. Anyway, I'm a career coach. I'm also the founder of Ladies Get Paid, which is an educational community and platform that is all about helping women make more, live better. Took a while to come up with that one-liner, but we did it. And we've got 100+ hours of content on our website. I'm going to be giving you guys lots of discounts to access it, coaching. I'm going to do the whole like how to get in touch with me at the end of all of this, but just wanted you to know since 2016, I've been doing this and more than 2 million messages have been exchanged on the platform. We've got over 60,000 people. I've seen it all. I traveled the country. I did 19 cities where I hosted town halls for women to talk about money. This is pre-pandemic. So, it's about 150 women per place. I'm not good at math, but you can do it. The math. Point being, let me just say, we are more like than not. I mean, I really got the same email and the same comment after every single event, which was, I thought I was the only one. Meanwhile, I'm, getting this really unique and I'm just so humbled by it, that this bird's eye view where I can see that we're all struggling with the same bullshit, but everybody feels like it's just them. So I'm here to tell you, trust me, you are not alone in whatever you are going through. I don't know if that makes you feel worse or better. But I mean, I think you recognize the power of sharing because you're here. And that, in order to stay motivated, to stay accountable, how can you do this on your own? I mean, it's almost impossible. We really need each other just as a baseline to cheer each other on. My God. So, preaching to the choir because you're here. Please follow me on Instagram, Claire Gets Paid. And also Ladies Get Paid. Also LinkedIn, all that stuff. I'm going to do just like a little bit of a speech about some of my thoughts around unemployment, or as I said in the very beginning before I started recording, fun employment. And then I have a bunch of tips that I want to share with you all because it's hard for me to take off my career coaching hat. Then I'm going to address some submitted questions. Like I said, there were 200 RSVPs, lots of really, really great questions submitted. And then we can talk, whether you want to do it on chat or we can unmute. Again, this is the first time that we're doing a job seeker support group. Good to see you, Amanda. So I want to make this as helpful as possible for you. In the future, we'll probably do breakouts, resume reviews, things like that. But for today, it's going to be a little bit more of just me talking, if that's okay with you. One thing that I want to mention is, maybe everyone mute themselves. Okay, so let me just make sure that that's mute all, and then I'm not going to allow you to unmute, at least for now, as much as, I would love to hear your voices, at least for this moment. It will be me. Okay. Well, first, let's just all take like a stretch that turns into a hug. Because oxygen mask on first before anybody else. We got to make sure we're okay. And feeling proud that you showed up for yourself. Okay. In this crazy, busy world, so much stress and anxiety. You could be doing a million other things, but you picked the right thing, which is you. And you did that today. Okay. I also want to just acknowledge that I have been every shape and form of laid off and fun employed that there can be. I have been brutally fired, which ended up leading to Ladies Get Paid, actually. Ultimately, I've been let go because the company went under, or he decided to close the company. That was another time. I've left on my own. I've been unemployed or fun employed or self-employed, doing my own thing through recessions. I graduated in a recession. We've had Ladies Get Paid during a pandemic. We were sued for gender discrimination by a group of men's rights activists. I consider that a moment of unemployment or fun employment, right? These basically is what I'm saying is the outside forces expectedly or unexpectedly coming into your life and throwing you for a loop. And you find yourself in a place where you go, everything now is intrinsically motivated. I don't have a boss. I don't have a team. I don't have other things around me giving me feedback, structure, validation, right? And especially for a society like ours, right, where so much of the way that we value ourselves comes through what we see as productivity, right? Or our paychecks, quite frankly, right? Like our net worth equals our self-worth. I'm the first person to say, go and make more money, right? But what happens when that is taken away? We now not only have to make sure we're paying our bills, but that we're also deriving a sense of worth and identity outside of the way that we were raised, right? And the way that society works. So this is way more than just financial fallout. There is so much existential. By the way, if this is like very sad and depressing, I always begin this way and then we'll get positive and we'll talk about tangible tips. So just stick with me. But point being is that this is a really hard time for so many reasons. One thing I want to just remind us is if it feels like the economy is a horrible shape and new layoffs, every day there's new layoffs, et cetera, it's not totally true. Because I just read that actually the economy is doing much better, that a ton of jobs have been added, but it's the tech space that there's a correction that's happening. I'm not going to get into like specifics of, venture capital and overinflating values. And now there's a readjustment that's happening. And these companies are laying, people off. I just want whatever you experience, if you feel like there's just so much shit around you, maybe. But if you take a huge step back and look holistically at the economy, we're actually doing okay. So it's just pretty specific to the tech sector right now. So just want to, remind that. Okay. All right. So I've acknowledged here that this is a lot more than just like not having a paycheck. There's a lot of things at play. Here's what I'm going to say to you all, though. This could be a really exciting and special time in your life. Because when in our lives do we get a chance to reset? Now, when in the registration, I asked, how long have people been laid off for a long time, or maybe you're currently employed and working, currently employed and looking. So not everybody here, is in the same stage, but point being is it's a inflection point where you don't have to go along with status quo. And that's also hard because the way that we are designed, right, even just biologically, through evolution, change equals unknown, and unknown is scary as hell because the worst things could happen, but the best things could also happen. And we tend to skew negative as a way of getting ahead of it, as a way of surviving. This is why we stress. Like our default, and we don't have time to get too much into like the biology of why this is, but our default is to be anxious as a way of problem solving. So when you find yourself freaking out, just take a moment and just say, this is my biological default. Thank yourself for it. We're going to put that to the side for a minute. So do know that like the freak out is totally normal and part of this, but it is not inevitable. You do have a choice of if you want to look at this time in your life actually as an opportunity to make change in the best way possible. And one way I can guarantee this for you. I really should never say I can guarantee anything, but I'm going to guarantee this for you because it's worked in my life. When I've thought about all the best things that have happened in my life, and then I thought about all the quote worst things, I'm going to put in quotations, worst things that happened in my life, I could chart a relatively direct path from the worst things, worst moments, to the best things and the best moments. If you don't believe me, do that as an exercise for yourself. Start with whatever is easiest for you. Thinking of the best things, thinking of the worst things. Anything from a relationship that you've had, to a job, to friendships, to whatever it is. See how you can correlate them. And then how did that happen? Right? Like my book deal, it came because I was sued. Okay. My wife came because I divorced my husband and realized I was a lesbian. Okay. These things were, quote, the hardest, most excruciating moments in my life. Extreme sexism and being fired in a brutal way. Hello, ladies get paid now exists, right? So what did it take to turn the negative into the positive, it takes a lot of energy. And that's where my number one tip here, besides starting, getting excited and getting curious, give yourself grace and space. Yes, Dora. Hi. Like, we're babies right now. Like, treat ourselves like we're little raw nerves, little bundle of nerves. We got to be very patient and kind with ourselves. Very patient and kind. We need to get sleep. We need to be drinking water. We need to go outside and get sunshine. Like, just say to yourself, back to the basics, because this is, again, a very raw time in our lives. Back to the basics, right? Also, I know money is nagging at you and it will continue to nag at you. So let's make sure we have a plan on that. Have we cut down everything that we need to be cutting down? Okay. Like, a lot of us have stress around money when we actually, quote, don't even need to. There's a scarcity mindset. That's a whole other talk about why that is. But you're going to keep thinking about your finances if you don't get a plan together and then trust that you have put the plan in place. Okay. Meaning, like, have you gone through all of your expenditures and cut out the things that are just like leaking money for you? Subscriptions you don't need, for example, right? Okay. Do you need to be making a little bit of extra income on the side as a stopgap? I'm going to send you, I'm going to copy and paste into the chat right here. Some stuff for you guys to think about, additional sources of income. For example, we're selling a lot of our stuff in our house, actually. Like, people are, on secondary markets, circular economy. It's a way to help the environment, and get things out of your house and make some extra money. So, before I get into the whole, like, let's find a job, like, let's just make sure we're not bleeding money, and acknowledging that if every once a week you're checking your finances and you have that plan in place and you know what you're spending, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's not how much you make, guys. It's how much you spend. Because I know people, including myself, who have made a big paycheck, but our spending's out of control. So it doesn't even matter. So as long as, like, just finances as a baseline, trust that you have a handle on it. And the next thing I want you to have a handle on are your thoughts. So being able to catch yourself when the thoughts are wandering and stressing. If you've come to any of my classes before, you may have heard this little meditation I do, but I'm going to share it for everybody else here. Courtyard. Imagine a courtyard for yourself. Do this every morning. Beautiful courtyard. Okay. Set an alarm for yourself, maybe 3 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. Imagine just being in your body, no thoughts, but a thought will come and you put it in the courtyard. Try to get back into your body. No judgment about having a thought. Nope. Because when it comes in, as it will, as it's supposed to, right? It's planning ahead. It's problem solving. Put it in the courtyard. Get into the habit of catching thoughts and putting it into a waiting room, a place for them to rest, where you can have a dedicated time later to explore all of your anxieties. This is when I recommend journaling. But just get into the practice of thought wrangling, is what I say. Okay. So I talked about getting excited, getting curious, giving yourself grace and space, getting a handle on your finances. Okay. Getting a handle on your thoughts. Back to basics, right? Then I want to talk about, and for those of you who are new or just joining, welcome, welcome. This first part of the session is I'm going to just be sharing some general tips that I have around, when you're in this time of your life, unique time in your life when you are looking for work. Then I'll address submitted questions and then we can have a conversation. But in the meantime, please use the chat to network. I want to think about next steps, because it can feel like there is so much that you need to be doing right now, right? Updating your resume, applying for jobs, networking, making money, perhaps on the side as a stopgap, like all these things, right? How do you know what to begin with? Like, where do you start? There is just so much. I want to talk about the word leverage for a second. Okay. Leverage to me is when you do this thing, you take this action that has leverage, which will then make everything else easier. Or it is like, if you're knocking down, a dominoes, right? Like, what's the domino chain? What needs to happen first that will then facilitate all these other things? And then I'm going to talk about structuring your day. But in just a moment, just, because a lot of you emailed me and you said, I have this. You have all these things you need to get done. And I could immediately see, wow, if you jump to applying jobs first, before you've done the inner work on what you actually want in life, you're wasting your time and energy. And of course, you're going to get rejected, right? Because maybe you're not even applying to the right jobs. Or again, if you are jumping ahead to applying to jobs, but never got feedback on your resume, or heck, even networked, like how about you get in the door before the door's even open? Most jobs, or many, many jobs, are not even posted online. They are filled internally. They are filled through employee referrals. So maybe instead of, taking your time to apply, we actually need to be taking that time to network. Okay. Things like that, right? Or maybe you're interviewing and you're not bringing your A game because you're so damn tired. Maybe the leverage priority needs to be, let's get a self-care routine in place, right? Okay. So do think about before, all my to-dos, can I pick the one that is like foundational and that will make the rest of them easier? Things like when I Google you, do you own your narrative? Meaning, what the heck comes up? Like, do you have a personal website? Is your LinkedIn cleared up? So just don't waste your time jumping 5 million steps ahead. All right. So that's one other thing. Then I want to structure our day because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, being fun employed, right? This is an unusual time where all motivation has to come from within. And that is very stressful, very, very stressful. Okay. So one way to structure your day, do it in chunks. Now, I don't know what everybody's schedule looks like right now and where you need to be assigning your time, but I want to tell you about how I do it for myself. Okay. I look at 4 hours a day of focused work and no more than that. And does that mean 4 hours in a row? Absolutely not. I do things in usually 25, 60, 90-minute chunks, okay, with breaks scheduled in. All right, I want to be clear about that, okay? But I don't put pressure on myself to do more than 4 hours of high priority focused work. Then I challenge myself to do 2 hours of shallow work, I call it, right? Or life admin work, right? Things that need to be taken care of, because if they don't, it's going to pile up. It's going to be not great. Oftentimes it's responding to emails or errands, things like that, right? Okay, so 4 hours of focused work, 2 hours of quote shallow work. All right, we're at 6 hours. That's pretty damn good. You might be thinking that's not enough because again, we live in a system where, but it's about the quality of the work that you're doing. But fine, we're going to add 2 more hours. We're going to make it an 8-hour day. And I do 2 hours of soul-filling work. I work on my screenplay. Okay. I work on something that, I move my body, right? Something that just fills my cup. 4 hours of focused work, 2 hours of shallow work, 2 hours of soul work. That's 8 hours. If you can do that, that's a ton. That's really a ton, especially for somebody who's working for themselves at the time. So I wouldn't even put pressure on yourself to do 8 hours a day. Because you want to be able to chart your progress and feel good about yourself, meaning start small. Okay. So let's say that 8 hour, that structure, that's ultimate. So what are we going to do leading up to that? And do know that any kind of focused work takes a lot of brain power. So you need to be giving yourself a lot of breaks. Oftentimes we think of, I want to give myself breaks when I'm physically tired. No, mentally tired is a thing. And if you've been in the habit of taking breaks when you need to take a break, you're already burnt out. So we have to be proactive in doing that for ourselves. So after, 60 minutes of focused work, I'm going to take 10 minutes of walking outside. Like physically get up, move, don't look at a screen, and put it on your calendar and take yourself seriously. Like you are your own boss now. Okay. Whether or not you want to be, you are your own boss. It's kind of liberating, right? It's kind of exciting. So what would the boss have you do? You would put things on your calendar, right? Hold yourself accountable to doing it. So that's huge. And I would say, just whatever you set out to do, please break it down into as micro steps as possible. If you've come to my other classes, you've probably heard me say this a million times, but we do not set ourselves up for success because we'll have a list of things to do. I'm looking at my list over here. And at the end of the day, we're like, I only did 2 things. I feel like shit. Well, wait a minute. Of that list, maybe those quote 2 things took a really long time, or actually each one of them had 2 more things you needed to do, right? So it's not just work on my resume. Well, maybe part of working your resume is doing research on other good examples of resumes, Maybe it is getting feedback. Maybe you need to it's not about working your resume. It's just working on the headline, the top line, the elevator pitch, which is so hard, right? Again, when you break things down into micro steps, it's allowing you to feel accomplished. Okay. And also give yourself some damn credit, because this stuff takes a lot. Right? Oh, look, hold on. This is funny. Kaylin said, I think of myself like a golden retriever. I need 3 meals a day and lots of walks. Yeah, exactly. Right. I think of myself as a baby, so lots of naps. There we go. And that's true. And so, add in those breaks and reward yourself. Like, have something, when you chart your progress of, hey, listen, I'm not good at doing the micro steps. I tend to bite off more than I can chew, for example. Progress to me is learning how to do more micro steps. So what does a reward look like for myself? Again, if you're your own boss now, you have to also give yourself like a promotion, right? Or give yourself raises. Yes. So Samantha asked, and then I'll get to questions in just a bit. What about those of us who are neurodivergent? Any advice on coping strategies when we aren't using medication? Yes, I've been diagnosed with ADHD and given medication that worked. I didn't love side effects from it. I've tried other supplements, vitamins, things like that. Like, I'm fully with you on this. I find just breaking everything down and full focus in small sprints. So like 20 minutes of full focus on this thing. And usually it's with a partner. I use focusmate.com, but also we'd love for everybody to start connecting through Ladies Get Paid. Focusmate.com. You can sign up. It's free. There's a version that's free, but it'll assign you to a random person who's just on Zoom with you as you do your task. This is the only way I work out in the morning. Seriously, 6:30 in the morning, I meet with somebody, and I just need a person who's like watching me be like, I'm getting on my bike now. Right. So yeah. But yeah, it's because we're not, yes, focusmate.com, because I'm not good at keeping track of my time. And I'm constantly negotiating with myself, like, to do other things that I would rather be doing. The only way I can do it is just 100% focus in short bursts with a partner. Okay. All right. And so, so staying motivated by charting your progress, that's huge. Working on soul filling things. So I know for so many of us right now, we feel like everything has to be going directly into finding work. That's going to make us burn the heck out. And so for me, I find it's actually working on things that, quote, have nothing to do with the task at hand that keeps me motivated, right? And that's when with Ladies Get Paid, I lost a lot of motivation during the pandemic, because I was very disconnected to the community, right? Like my why of why I even do this, right? But I found actually a way of getting back into Ladies Get Paid was to work on this screenplay that I'm writing, just something totally different. Because when I want to take a break from the screenplay, like, I miss Ladies Get Paid. I've also scratched my itch of like imagination, right? Whereas Ladies Get Paid is a little more strategy work, et cetera, right? So I would encourage you, especially if you've done the structured work of like, in a given day, I've spent even just 2 hours working on my resume, maybe spending 2 hours working on something that has nothing to do with it, but just allows you to feel some freaking joy. Do that. So I encourage us to think maybe a little more expansively, a little more creatively about what fills our cup, because that is a huge part of this time, is staying motivated. Also, a number of people submitted questions, and I'm going to get to them in just a minute. But a number of people submitted questions feeling like they weren't standing out. And that might be because you've only worked at jobs that didn't allow you to express yourself. That could be part of it. Also could be how you're talking about yourself. That's a whole other thing. But that means maybe this is a side project time, right? Like, so maybe the portfolio that you create, the resume you create, you have evidence of like jobs you've worked in the past, but it could also be these sort of imaginative case studies of what you would do now, right? If you were to be hired by a company, here's how you would, if there was whatever, I'm like making things up at this point. But I also want to let y'all know, before I started Ladies Get Paid, I worked at a company called workingnotworking.com. It's And it started with freelancers, connecting them for work based on their availability. So if they were working or not working, but it's expanded. Also started in advertising, tech, and design. I think it's also expanded since then. And then before that, I worked for the Art Directors Club, which was for people in visual communications. So I got to see the process of hiring and still do, because I teach at companies. And I got to tell you, people who are self-motivated, who have side hustles, projects they've created, did not have to be projects that were ever monetized. I want to be clear. Those people stood out because anybody can do their job. Well, not anybody, but you doing a job that you were given is one thing. You self-creating is very impressive. And this can be, ooh, I don't know why I'm all blurry. I guess my web camera thought I needed more of a filter. That's sad. Okay. Anyway, okay. So I just want to be clear, again, in that, in structuring your day, if you want to do part of it as, can I just explore what like a self-motivated project or portfolio would look like? I am so bothered by my, hello. Okay, sorry. I'm not very good at tech. There we go. Okay. So, I would really look into that. And if any of this is feeling overwhelming and exhausting to you, again, it's just about looking at the steps that you need to take in that domino and only focus on the very beginning. And maybe, guys, that's just getting better sleep, working on your sleep hygiene. Because if you don't have sleep and hydration and nutrition, you don't have your health, everything is a lot harder. So just know, all this sounds overwhelming. It's okay. Just start with the basics, back to basics, treat us like a baby. All right. Okay. I just yelled. All right. Good. We are at 9:30, which is what I wanted us to be at. I'm going to go ahead and, I might actually just keep myself recording until there's a time when people, if we ever unmute and y'all are sharing, then at that point, I will not record anymore to respect everybody's privacy. So, but for the time being, I'll keep going because I know that there's 100 people who didn't come today and they might want to hear the responses to some of the questions that were submitted. So let me spend the next 10 minutes or so responding to some of those questions. And then I'm going to unmute, or I'm going to stop recording, and then we can have a share session if that sounds good. Like I said at the very beginning, this is the first time we've done this, and moving forward, we'll structure it in different ways with breakouts, resume reviews, things like that. But for now, I hope you're not bothered by the sound of my voice. Okay. Okay, so let's see. When I say this question, so I went through, they were fabulous. There were more than I could answer, which is why we're going to do these every Monday. I'm going to say the question out loud, but I would love if in the chat, if you have a response to the question with your own experience. I mean, I'm just one person, so please, please do share. Okay, so it is hard to stay motivated and focused when you don't get the job or interview. I'm hard on myself and overly critical. All right, who feels that? Yeah, put that in the chat. Okay. Yeah, so I've addressed this a little bit, I think, already. But I would say if you're not getting the job or the interview, I would see if you were applying for the right jobs. And it might be an indication for you to be doing some more work, some more soul searching on your direction, on your purpose. I have lots to say on that subject, which I can address in later sessions, but just make sure, it's not just about like, are you right for the job? Is the job right for you? It's got to go both ways. So I would start there. That's pretty foundational. Then I would go to, am I portraying myself in the best way possible? So, am I integrating keywords that I'm seeing in these, in the job description? Like, am I getting past these screening, the ATS, the applicant tracking system? If you're not even getting past it, it could be a keyword issue. That's one thing. Have I really like quantified the impact of my work? So being able to correlate, here's what I did and how I influenced the business bottom line. How did I save the company money? How did I save the company time? How did I contribute to the company culture? This might be an indication to perhaps go back, if possible, to your job, the previous job, and have a discussion of your impact on the business bottom line, right? Because again, anyone can say, I did this work, but how many of us can speak in terms of the money, right? Because that's what they really want to know. How did you fit into the financial ecosystem of the company? That's another thing. And then also, are you standing out? Have you talked about who you are? Have you talked about your ideas, right? Like no one can take that away from you. So there could be some uniqueness that's missing, the humanness, right? Because you're not just hired to do a job, you're hired to be part of a team. So that's another thing. Then the last part of this is I'm hard on myself and overly critical, right? So knowing that this is maybe a default that you have, I absolutely have it. And that you are trying to help yourself. So it is validating and thanking the fact that you think that you're being helpful by being hard on yourself. But it's actually, you need to learn to trust yourself without the self-flagellation. And one way to do that is to really develop a practice of tapping into who you are when you're not doing anything. So you as a human being and not as a human doing. Okay. And that's a much longer process, but I would say beginning with every day, a grounding ritual of the courtyard exercise. That's one way to help. And just know, you bring value by just being yourself. No one has your life experience. No one has the way that you think. Okay. The way that you treat other people, right? All these things are unique to you. Okay, let's talk about having confidence. Let me check the chat. Okay, good. Thank you all for continuing to, Teal is awesome. Great, fabulous. Having confidence to apply for things. Okay, so that's a statistic a lot of us have heard, right? That women in particular apply much less than men, even when we are more qualified. Actually, good news. I just read that when women do apply, we are more likely to get the job. Now, we are less likely to be promoted and get raises. Haha, that's why Ladies Get Paid exists. But we actually are in good position when we do apply. This is an interesting balance because on one hand, I want you to apply to as many jobs as possible because that's going to increase the chances that you get the job, right? Right. And, if you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so to speak. But on the other hand, I want you to conserve your energy. So I want you to apply to the right jobs in the right way. So one thing about confidence, don't wait for it because it may never come. You got to act without the confidence, right? The confidence will show up later. Oftentimes we feel like we need to, you got to see the evidence to believe in yourself. So it's walking on stage when you're scared out of your mind and doing it anyway, because that's courage. If you only did things that you didn't have fear around, then that's low stakes. You're living a small, low stakes life. So I would say, hey, if something is scaring me, this is a really good indication that I'm going in the right direction and that I'm living a big life. So it's don't even wait for the confidence. It's kind of what I'm saying, right? So you might not have any confidence when you're doing this whole thing, but you are now going to be charting your progress by your doing, right? You're just freaking doing it. So that's how you're going to feel good. Or you're doing it in a different way, right? Then you're going to feel good about it. And if you found that balance for yourself of, am I doing that soul searching of, am I applying to the right jobs? Have I done really good work on presenting myself in the best way possible, right? And I'm applying for as many jobs as possible. It's a balance. So again, I'm not saying don't apply for the jobs, but, do a lot of work before you apply for the jobs and then yes, go for them. I also think that, all of my jobs, guys, anything I've ever done in my life, I never got through a cold application, right? I never got through a listing that was online. I sometimes got interviews, relationships. It was through relationships. So go for everything. But I would say first go for the gatekeepers, go for, reaching out to people who work at companies that you think are doing interesting things. And don't reach out to the person that you want to hire you. You're not ready for that. You got to work your way up. So apply for just people who are at that company or who do interesting things. Learn about the company culture. I'll speak at other sessions more about networking in general, but I would say Apply for as many things as possible, but don't do it blindly. Do it with allies and advocates. And that's the networking first. Okay. Let me check the chat. Yeah, I'm going to keep going through my things. Okay. All right. Struggling to make significant headways networking. Okay. Missing the right way to ask new connections for introductions. So at the end of a networking chat, I struggle to ask the person if they have anyone else they recommend to talk to because I don't want to put them out. How do you make requests of strangers? Right. Okay. So first, so I guess I said I'll speak about this in another session, but nope, I'm going to speak about it now. Don't think of it as networking and don't think of it as you asking for help. Think of it as community building for everybody, because anyone who's been successful in their life knows that it's through the value of their connections. It's through relationship building. Okay. So, and I find the people who are most responsive to me are the people who are the most successful. It's wild. I'm like, how do you have time for little old me? But that's because they know that this is how the system works. Okay. So it's really interesting. And just offer support. Like, if the whole time you're like, how can I help you? And even if you think you got nothing to bring to the table, you even asking, that counts. But you actually do bring something to the table because you're putting yourself out there and you're making connections that you could then introduce them to. The person you're networking with, chances are at some point they're hiring. Even if it's just, I'm hiring a vendor, or maybe they're seeking information. You could become a gatekeeper for that. You can be a connector. So you bring value. Promoting their stuff, right? Like there's been a number of people in the Ladies Get Paid community who I know because they show up for things, but they promote. They're like, hey, you should come to this event that Claire's doing. And I notice them. Or they're like, hey, Claire's has this book, like ladiesgetpaid.com/book, right? And they're promoting it. I am way more inclined to help them because they already helped me. So you don't need to feel like, oh, am I bothering them, right? Because if you're already coming in with that pay it forward energy, you're good. You can always give them an out. Hey, Claire told me I have to shoot my shot. Is there anyone else that you would recommend? No pressure. Just give them the option. Give them the option, okay? So don't worry about it. If you've done it in a thoughtful way, all good. All good. Okay. For the next, I'm going to do this for the next couple minutes, and then we'll have a chat. Okay. Narrowing down which roles to apply for. I feel like I could take my career in so many directions. I thought I knew what I wanted to do next, marketing, but recent layoffs are making me question if I should consider pivoting differently. Okay, so I've got sort of like a few responses to this. Number one, if you want to think strategically in your career, start with where is the money? Like always follow the money, both at your own company, company you work for, but also the industry. Where are they investing, and align your career with that? So, where a lot of money I think is going in now, I think climate stuff, right? Pandemic, because the pandemic, there's, been a lot of like telecom, like Zoom, right? Anything virtual facilitation, right? So start doing research on what sectors, right? So what industries, what roles is there a lot of investment and growth in? Because A, there's going to be more opportunities to be hired, but B, there's also going to be more of a path for you, right, to get promoted. So that's one thing. But you're not going to truly succeed and love what you do if you haven't done that internal searching first of what actually do I give a shit about? Because if I have a third thing to say about that, though, you don't need to deeply care about your career. I used to think so. I mean, my goal in life would be for everybody to love what they do. But you know what? Sometimes when you love what you do, it's exhausting. Also, sometimes the things we love what we do make no money, or they make no money and they end up, or we make money from it and we end up not loving it. Like trying to monetize a passion can oftentimes make that passion into a chore. So I'm saying a few contradictory things here, which is you could also decide that your career, your job is purely about just making money, or it's 9 to 5, you clock in, you clock out, and you have a fucking life. Okay. Excuse my cursing, but I'm not saying you need to give it all to your job, right? But before you do that, I do want you to contemplate for yourself, what do you actually care about? And can you pick a job that allows you to express that in some way. So it could be that you care about solving a problem, right? Like climate, right? So you want to work in that industry, or healthcare. And yes, maybe the job itself is rough, but you know you're living your purpose, right? And you have a lot of self-care, so you're good on your energy. Or maybe you don't give a shit about the industry, but you know that being able to express yourself in this role is awesome. And you get to like develop your skills, right? Because that's the other thing is I want you to make sure you're moving in a direction where there's at least some sort of growth, if not about financial growth, skill growth, or world growth, right? Or network growth, information growth, right? Growth, right? Because that's otherwise, if you're not growing, what's happening? You're dying, you're Stacy's, right? Again, growth can be expressed in many different ways. So this is where that internal, you got to have a lot of deep self-reflection, and I'm here for that. This is one of my favorite subjects, besides helping you make more money, is figuring out your own, who you are, right? So in narrowing down which roles to apply for, maybe stop looking at what's out there and look at what's in here. I would say that. But at the same time, also, where's their investment happening? So go read, Bloomberg, Fortune, like go read all the industry, publications, like subscribe for a month, go read as much as you can. By the way, everything's negotiable. So if you want to reach out to any of these companies, or whatever, because you want to, get a subscription and you say, I'm laid off, I don't have any money right now. Is it possible to get it for free for a month? I'll post it, whatever. Like always ask, always ask. Okay. Now we are at 9:45. Perfect. All right. I have so many more questions to respond to, but good news, we're going to be doing this every Monday. So in the time being, let me just quickly say, because I want for the last 15 minutes, the ability to ask questions live and chat. But I want to just, for those watching the recording after the fact, please come join Ladies Get Paid. It's free. We have a community where everybody, in here, there's going to be a channel in our online platform where we can stay in touch throughout the week. You can also, let me give you a code here. You can also become a pro member, and that gives you free access to all of our videos and events. If you use the code JOBSEEKER, it's 50% off. And you also, so that's huge. Also, if you want to do private coaching with me, I'm taking $100 off of my sessions for everybody who's here. So I just put, so I put that in there. I also am, by the way, we have a course called How to Get the Job, but I'm going to give it to you all. If you become a pro member, I'll give it to you for free. Okay. And then also, if you can't afford coaching, private coaching right now, I'm going to be doing free coaching, one-on-one free coaching. But the deal is you got to come live with me. We're going to do it on LinkedIn and YouTube. So that's going to be my new little experiment of, if every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, I'm going to start with Amy, who might be here. I think hopefully on the 14th, where we are doing like 45 to 60 minutes of like deep session. But you got to come on. We're going to do it for everybody in the community together. All right. Claire Gets Paid at Instagram. So let me go ahead. I'm going to stop the record.